welcome to the Biddeford Parsonage Museum, historical residence of Lucy Maud Montgomery during 1894-95. Come in, relax, and join us for Storytime with LM Montgomery.
Hello, my name is Rebekah Brown, and I will be reading A Real Test of Friendship, a short story by LM Montgomery. In the mellow afternoon sunlight, two girls were walking rapidly down the lime-shaded street that led from the normal school. The taller girl of the two, bright-eyed girl about 17, with clear-cut features and a general air of independence, pushed through the dark curls with a sigh of relief. Realize that it's all over, Bee, a long winter's grind with those ratchet exams, and all of the worry and anxiety. We're free. It seems too good to be true. Her companion, a slight, fair girl, seemingly a year or two younger, with a sweet face and wistful blue eyes, answered, You feel free because you are sure that you have passed, Edith, but I am not at all sure. I got dreadful nervous at my algebra exam, and I feel certain that I have made a mess of it, and I do not do as well as I should have done in my other papers. I wish that I had your nerve and pluck, Ede. I really believe that you do enjoy taking your exams. Well, I don't mind them when I'm fairly into them. It's when you're thinking about them beforehand that upsets me. Don't you worry, Bee. You'll come out all right and be the proud possessor of your B certificate this week. I hope so, returned Beatrice Hastings seriously. It seems a great deal for me, you know. More than for you, because your honor is all you care about. You don't intend to teach, do you? Yes, I do, answered Edith deceivingly. I've finally made up my mind to. I've coaxed my father around to my view. He's dreadfully opposed to it at first, but he gave me consent at last. Of course, there's no need for me to teach, but I want my independence. I want to make my own way in life. Lots of other girls do. Of course, I shall not take any but a desirable situation. I hope we get schools near each other, Ede. Wouldn't it be nice? Have you any particular one in view? Not at present. We'll have to be looking around, though. Nice schools are always snapped up. There's such a swarm of us coming out this year that I believe that there will be barely enough schools to go around. But Bee, what a mite you are to go teaching. What will you do if you ever get some horrid backward school with big boys ever so much older and bigger than yourself to manage? I'll do the best I can, said Bee, smiling. You don't know how dignified I can look if I need to be. I shall do my hair up and lengthen my dresses and wear specs. Besides, I've heard that there's special providence for school marms. Well, here's my street. Will you be down this week, Ede? Oh, yes. And you'll be up to compare notes? Let me see. Next Wednesday. The pass list will be out. If we pass, we must have a regular jollification to celebrate it. And if we don't? But we shall. Bye-bye, Bee. Keep up your courage. Edith Meyer and Beatrice Hastings had been attending the normal school in their native town for a year, and were inseparably chums, although Beatrice belonged to a very different social class from Edith, whose family was among the best in Redale. The democratic atmosphere of the normal school, however, social distinctions came to drop out of sight. There was sort of free monsery among the students that was high independent of wealth or position. Edith was clever, witty, and popular. Beatrice was a shy, timid girl with sweet, retiring disposition. She and Edith had been drawn together from the first, and their friendship was a true one, in spite of, or perhaps because of, the difference in their characters. Beatrice's father was dead, and she was the oldest of a large family. She expected to support herself and to assist her mother by teaching. She had studied hard during the year. The more brilliant Edith had done showering her work and expected a high rating. She was energetic and ambitious and intended to accomplish something. In a week's time, the pass list was out, and Edith flew down to Bee, who was tumult of delight and relief. Oh, Bee, congratulations. Why, you are the third on the list. I knew you'd do splendidly, and you are first. I am so happy and proud." "Well, that worry is over," said Edith. "Now about schools. What are your prospects, Bee?" "Well, I think I'm sure of a school, and a good one too," responded Bee. "But I won't say a word until I am really sure." "Well, I hope you may get it all right. Our high standings ought to help us some, but we'll keep our eyes opened. We must run right back. I'm awful busy. Come tomorrow night, Bee, and tell me of your news if you have any." But Bee did not go up the next evening, nor the next. On the third evening, Edith went down again and blurted out her usual impetuous way. "Oh, Bee, I've got a school. Just the very thing. The primary grade at Maplewood School. Isn't it splendid? I heard it would be vacant. I applied right off, you know. Uncle Harrison is one of the board directors. He got me right in. I'm delighted. Maplewood is a nice place, and I know lots of people there. The salary is good, and the grade is easy. I don't know any place that would have suited me half so well. But here I am, running my own affairs and not giving you a chance to get in a word edgewise. Have you got a school you spoke of? Why, Bee, what's the matter? You've been crying." "Oh, it's nothing," said Bee bravely. "Not much, at least. It doesn't take much for me to cry, you know. I was feeling a little disappointed. I did not get the school I expected." "That's too bad," said Edith. "What school was it, Bee?" Bee blushed and hesitated. "Why won't you tell me?" she persisted, her friend. "Well, Ede, it was your school, the primary grade at Maplewood. I didn't know you had applied for it. My mother has a friend there who influenced for me. I thought I was sure of it. But it's all right. I must look somewhere else." All the animation faded out of Edith's face. "Oh, Bee, I'm so sorry," she said earnestly. "Would you have gone to the school if I hadn't applied?" "Yes. The board said my application was considered the next best. But you mustn't feel bad over it, Ede. Of course it isn't your fault. Since I can't have it myself, I'd rather see you than anyone else." "Perhaps you may get a good school somewhere else," said Edith slowly. "I'm afraid not," said Bee, and in spite of her effort, her voice quivered. "You see, I rather counted on getting the Maplewood vacancy, and didn't pay much attention to the other chances, how they're mostly taken. It serves me right for being so careless. Now, Ede, dear, don't worry over this. Let's talk of something else. I have something comical to tell you that I just heard about in the junior class." But Edith could not affect much interest in the juniors. As soon as possible, she excused herself from the hurried home. "I can't help it," she said to herself petulantly, as she walked along under the limes. "I'm sorry, Bee. Of course it was my fault. Bee knows that herself. If I had known that she was trying for the school, I wouldn't have applied for it. But now it's too late." Something was the matter with Edith that night. The whole family noticed. She was dull and moody, as her brother blankly expressed it, all around cantankerous. She snapped at her sister, spoke disrespectfully to her father, and snubbed her mother. And this unpleasant mood did not pass the night, but continued off for a whole week, until the Myers did not know what to make of her. One afternoon, she resolutely put on her hat and went down to Bee. "Have you heard from any schools yet, Bee?" she said anxiously. "No, they are all taken. I shall have to wait until next year." Edith went back home after a brief call. It was dusk, and she went straight to her own room and sat by the window. "I can't do it," she muttered, as if arguing with the point of an invisible opponent. "No one could expect me to. No place had suited me as well as Maplewood. If I withdraw now, it will be too late to go to another school. Perhaps it might not do Bee any good at all. It's nonsense to think of." After an interval of meditation, she spoke aloud. Of course I might withdraw, even now. Mother and father are really opposed to my teaching, so I suppose I ought to have regard for their wishes than to insist upon it. And poor Bee needs that school 10 times more than I do. In the end, Edith wrote a letter to her uncle in Maplewood, withdrawing her application, and asked him to use his influence to obtain the situation for her friend, Beatrice Hastings, and then asked her brother to mail the letter out for her at once. She feared she might change her mind. I won't say anything to Bee until I'm sure, she reflected, for fear that there might be some hitch after all. She might be doubly disappointed. Then Edith went and had a good hearty cry, for she was only ordinary flesh and blood girl, and having her heart set on this, it was hard to give up. But she felt repaid 2 days later when Bee came flying up and whirled into Edith's room with a tempest of mingled joy, reproached. "Oh, Ed, you darling, I knew you did it all." "Did what?" "Why, got Maplewood School for me. I had just received word an hour ago. They said you had withdrawn." "Oh, Ed, you didn't do that for my sake, did you?" "I won't take it if you did. I'd never had a minute of peace of conscience." "You absurd girl," said Edith, demanding that she not let Bee suspect the truth. "You have all the peace of conscience in the world, as far as I'm concerned. Yes, I withdrew from the school. Father can't get reconciled to let me go. And of course when I did, the last thing I could do was to recommend you. I'm awful glad you got it, Bee." "And I am the happiest girl in Redale," cried Bee. "I feel as if a mountain had been lifted from my shoulders." Edith laughed. Somehow her pleasure in Bee's happiness was so keen that her disappointment did not seem much after all. "It's too fine an evening to stay indoors," she said. "Let's go uptown and celebrate the occasion with some ice cream." This story was published on June 26, 1898 in Philadelphia Times.